What happens when the A disappears from your report card?
Or when the starting spot is gone or the award doesn't come? Who is your child then?
Exactly. And the danger is that for many of our kids, their who has become entirely tied to their do. We've accidentally taught them that they are only as good as their last test score, their last game-winning shot, or their last lead role in the play.
Today we're talking about the identity crises facing this generation and how parents and leaders can anchor kids in something that can't be taken away.
Welcome to Equipped for Impact, the podcast designed to assist Christian parents, leaders, and educators to raise up the next generation to stand firm in their faith and influence the world for Christ. We're your hosts. I'm Nate.
And I'm Lewis.
And we're glad you're here with us today, where we're starting a 3-part mini-series called The Achievement Trap. We're talking about how to disciple driven kids. Now, Lewis, we've talked a lot about things through the worldview lens, and our culture, talks about identity being built from the outside in, right? They say, I perform, people applaud, therefore I have value. And so what we're talking about today is this whole idea of they get that horizontal worth, right? It comes from the horizon. It's people around me and what they think of me.
And the big problem with this idea of horizontal worth is that it's like a roller coaster. I can't even talk this
roller
morning.
coaster,
roller
man.
coaster.
Okay, let's practice. Roller coaster.
Roller coaster.
There you go.
What's going on with me?
I don't know.
I'm breaking down.
This is truth, proof. This is proof. I can't talk either. That you are not AI right now.
I'm not. Well, AI can make mistakes, though.
There's been questions, though, sometimes of whether you are actually an AI-generated voice in our podcast.
So this idea of this horizontal worth and it being this roller coaster is that if you're at the top of the class, you feel like a god, right? You feel like you're important. You feel like you've arrived, but when you fail the math quiz, then you feel like trash, and there's no stability in this roller coaster.
Yeah, and the same thing could be said for sports, right?
Yeah.
Did you hit, the home run?
I did.
Have that? You did? Did you play baseball? I thought you were a football guy.
I played baseball through my sophomore year of high school.
Oh, okay.
And then that was it.
You were a football guy.
I was a football guy.
You were a football guy.
I was really
a
good.
baseball guy. Yeah, you were really good?
I was really good.
And that's why you quit after your sophomore year?
No, I'm not talking about baseball. I was really good at football.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. And humble about it, too.
Very.
Okay.
Very.
So we talk about this, whether it's sports or, fine arts or, athletics like we've been talking about, and so as parents, we have to help our kids see that this is a trap, right? We're calling it the achievement trap. It's when good things like a high GPA, a letter on, a varsity sport, they're not just good things anymore. They've become God things. In the Bible, God calls that an idol. It's anything we look to for the meaning and security that should only come from God.
And that's sneaky, right?
Yeah,
so,
super.
Because we're not bowing down to like a golden statue, right?
There's no golden cow.
Yes, because that's what people think about, right? Like an idol is this golden statue, this golden cow, this physical thing that I'm bowing down to. But what's happening is that we're bowing down to that elite sticker on the back of your minivan.
I do drive a minivan.
You do, right?
There's no stickers, though.
And then
we don't put bumper stickers on our car.
At all?
No.
So no like
I was driving
terrific kid?
No, I was driving through town the other day, and I saw like a George W. Bush presidential campaign sticker on the back of a car.
Was it like from 2000?
Yeah, like the 2000 election, like the hanging Chad election. You remember the hanging Chad?
I do remember that. I do remember that. I used to hang with a guy named Chad.
Did you?
I did.
And so you were hanging with Chad?
So then when our kids' performance becomes the source of our pride as parents, we are actually fueling their identity crises, and we're teaching them that our love and God's love is conditional.
Yeah, that's so sneaky, right? Because I don't think there's any parent that would say that to their kid, right? And if you are, we need to talk because that's terrible.
We got to go back to a few episodes.
Yeah, several episodes we can send you, right? But no parent would just be like, oh yeah, if you don't get an A on this, then you're a terrible person or I don't love you anymore, right? But because we push so hard and we get so upset when something happens, right? Or they don't achieve what we think they should achieve or they're capable of achieving, like then what they hear is that they're not good enough and we don't love them as much as we could, right? And so it's an accidental, like I said, nobody would say that, but it's something that we unintentionally kind of bake into the way we're leading our children. So the question is, how do we break that trap, right? How is it, Lewis, that we would come, we've got that horizontal worth, the achievement trap. What would you say? Like, where should we start with breaking this achievement trap?
Well, we've got to help them pivot from this horizontal worth of what do the people around me think? What do my friends think? What do my teachers think? What do my parents think? To this identity of vertical worth, right? Their identity is built from the top down, and it's based on these two important biblical truths, and we've talked about it before, creation and redemption, right? Creation tells them you have value because the creator of the universe knit you together, right? You are an imago Dei. You are an image bearer of the creator. I love how Paul puts it when he says that we are God's masterpiece, right? We are his workmanship, right? And so that value doesn't change whether you're the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar business or you're the person that's cleaning the office.
Yeah, I think that's really important, right? You root it in creation, right? We talked about this before, creation, fall, redemption. And so redemption tells us you are so valuable that Christ died for you, right? To bring you into his family. And so your resume is really written by Jesus on the cross. It's not about like, here's my list of things that I achieved. Here's my A+ and all this. No, you take his achievement and it's been credited to your account. And that's why in Matthew 11:28-30, Jesus says to the crowds, like, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He says, take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Ooh,
I
that's really
love
good.
that
That's really
because it's this whole idea of like in them, their achievement culture, like the Jews in the first century, their achievement culture was a religious achievement. Let me do these things and I'm going to be a good, Jewish person. God's going to love me more. And Jesus says, no, come to me and I'm going to give you rest, right? And so today, sometimes it's a religious achievement, right? I've got to be a good kid. Don't get in trouble. Never, like I'll see that sometimes. So like I'm a principal and kids will get in trouble. They come to my office and you'll see that kid that it's like the very first time they've ever come to the principal's office. And like they take it so hard sometimes. Sometimes they don't, and that's a different problem. But they come in and they're just so distraught because they feel like they're a terrible person. And it's there where I have to kind of pivot and be like, yes, this was wrong, what you did. However, like, let's have this conversation of, Christ died for your sins. And so there's redemption. And we can do that in anything. We put that pressure on us and we feel like we need to perform in school, in sports, in whatever. But really, we just need to rest. In what Christ has done for us.
And that's actually really good because it leads us right to consider the Sabbath, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what the Sabbath is. Like, why did God command rest? And it wasn't just because we get tired. It was a theological statement, right? When we stop working for 24 hours, we are providing ourselves this opportunity to disconnect from what the world is doing, right? Because the world keeps spinning without our effort, right? Like we may think we're so important that we always have to be working, but when we stop working, the world keeps on going.
That's exactly right.
And we're reminding ourselves that our worth isn't and should not be tied to our work. And it's important that we understand that God wants us to rest, to remind us that our value doesn't come from the work that we do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you think about, God did that. He rested in that, creation week, not because he needed to, right? He was just setting the pattern for us because he knew we needed the rest, and he knew we needed to have that moment to trust in him. I love every time in Exodus, like you read through Exodus and God is reminding them of the Sabbath day, he points back to creation, but he also points back to their enslavement in Egypt.
Oh, that's
and
really
he
good.
talks about you need to rest. The Sabbath is holy day unto the Lord because you were slaves. And so now you need to learn how to stop working just as much as you need to learn how to work hard, right?
I read from somebody a while back this idea of Sabbath and rest, and how God didn't prescribe specific things to do on the Sabbath, right? Like he just rested, right?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't.
The Jews didn't worship on the Sabbath. It's not like we think Sunday, so we're going to church and that was not what the Jews did. I mean, they did start doing that, but that was not the primary purpose of their day.
And so, as this person's writing about it, they say that God intentionally didn't prescribe what to do on the Sabbath because he knew we would create an idol. So and actually it's what happened, right? Like that's part of what happened in the New Testament where Jesus comes on the scene and the Pharisees are telling Jesus like, hey, your disciples are picking like wheat off of the wheat stalks while they're walking on the Sabbath.
They're harvesting.
Like, you're going to let them do that? And Jesus looks at them and he's like, what?
Well, how else are they going to eat,
And so, like, God knew our human nature. And so the idea of Sabbath is you just rest, right? And so we need to teach our kids to Sabbath from the pressure of performance, because they're constantly thinking that they have to be performing at this level.
Yeah. That's really important, right? Because we're not producing, we're not performing. It's a time to rest, right? But we want to give you guys listening some practical tools, right? We want to get practical. We don't want to just get theoretical, because I think I would hope, right? You all listening, you understand this, that this is a trap, and your kid's worth is not tied up in their performance. Your worth is not tied up in your kid's performance, even though you may act that way sometimes. So we want to give you a practical tool, and it's called the identity audit. The identity audit. It's just a time for you and your kids to sit down and really just kind of audit, where are you finding your identity? You can sit down, maybe you have some ice cream, maybe a waffle sundae would be really good, because we've talked about waffle sundaes before.
You mean like a waffle cone with...
No, like a legit waffle that you would eat for breakfast, but with ice cream on top.
Okay.
And then you make it a sundae with all the syrup and caramel and peanut butter. Waffle.
Ice cream
on top.
Yeah.
That's good.
I can get down with that. That's like a dessert.
That is a dessert.
That's not breakfast.
No, you could do breakfast for dinner.
That'd be disgusting.
That would be okay.
Do not sit down with your kid over breakfast for dinner.
Fun fact, right now, it is currently 11:13 on the day that we are recording this, and there is breakfast food in one of the teachers' lounges, and I have had some.
The record should show that...
I did eat it before 10:30.
Yes. The record should show that I have instructed them to not eat any breakfast food after 10:30.
Yep. They're not listening to you.
I hope they submit to my authority.
Nope, they will not. We may need all new teachers. But, okay, back on track. So you sit down with your kid, make it fun, coffee, ice cream, dinner, breakfast, whatever you want, okay? And Lewis, what should parents do if they're going to perform this identity audit, over breakfast for dinner?
So keep it simple, right? Ask them 5 things that they are currently proud of, or 5 things that they feel define them. So
5 things. Make a list.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of lists.
What are the 5 things right now in your life that you're proud of, right? Like, if I were to ask my daughters this, they might say, I'm a good soccer player, I'm a good softball player, I get good grades, right? Your children may say, I'm a straight A student, I'm popular, I'm number 1 in my Fortnite guild. Is that a thing?
I don't know, and my kids don't play Fortnite.
Okay.
So I think that was evidenced when we had the gaming episode, and I was clueless.
They
through
might
most of
say, I won my Mario Kart race.
that. There we go.
Okay.
There we
right?
go.
So
Mario Kart.
But ask them, right, what are the 5 things that they're currently proud of, or what are the 5 things that define them? And then once they make that list, ask the identity question. If these 5 things were taken away from you tomorrow, if you lost your spot on the team, if you struggled in school, if your friends moved away, how would God still see you?
Yep. And that's good, right? It's not meant to be a gotcha moment, right? It's a chance to remind them God would still see you as his child. You might even need to say, I still love you. I am still proud of you, right? God would still see you as his masterpiece. He would still see someone he was willing to die for. Like those things. And you can say that and your kid might be like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm dad, I know. But it helps them, right? Because they're decoupling their personhood from their performance.
That's really good.
Yeah. Once you decouple who you are, your identity, your personhood from your performance, it gives you an opportunity to then rebuild, right? You're acknowledging that those things are good. And you can even say, hey, I'm super proud of you for those 5 things too.
Yeah.
But even if they go away,
yeah,
I'm still proud of you. And I still love you.
And this actually reminds me of something that happened recently. And it's just a moment of transparency that I think is going to help you because we've talked earlier about how this can be a sneaky thing, right? Like no parent is going to intentionally try to create their child's worth based on what their child is doing in school or on their sport team. But it can sneak up on you. Like my wife and I, we had this really proud moment last week where my daughter, who plays soccer, played in a game and we did not feel she played to the level of her ability. And so when we got into the car and were leaving the game, like we deserve an award for this because we were like parents of the year, right? And so we took the opportunity to point out to her how poorly she played, and we made sure.
I'm sure she took that well, too.
Yeah. So we made sure she knew that she did not play to the level that we thought she was capable of. We made sure she knew that there were missed opportunities in the game and that she could have played at a lot better level. What made this even better was that earlier in the day, she had asked if we could go to, have you heard of Crumble Cookie?
Yes.
Okay, so she had asked about that, and I had said, yeah, like we can go. I'm sure because there was a specific cookie that she wanted to get, and her mom and her probably would have liked it. Well, in our parenting expose, let's just call it that, right?
Yep.
I forgot that we were going to go to Crumble Cookie. So we spent like 15, 20, 30 minutes just talking about everything she could have done better in this soccer game that we forgot to go to Crumble Cookie. And so then it was like, oh, we forgot to go to Crumble Cookie. And so all of these things happen. And y'all, like, I mean, it's one of those things where my wife and I, that night we were talking about it and we were like, we should not have done that. Like we just created this moment where her performance, right, was connected to how we felt about her. And we don't ever want our daughter to feel this way.
Yep.
And so thankfully a couple days later, after kind of the emotions
I thought you were going to say you DoorDashed a Crumble Cookie.
I should have. It doesn't come to our house though.
Oh, okay.
And so my wife and I were praying with our daughter, and we took that opportunity to apologize to her and to let her know that we were proud of her and that conversation was out of line, and we were apologizing for what happened. But y'all, we may do 99% right, and that one moment, it just snuck up on us, right? Like we know that our daughter's identity is not tied up to in soccer or athletic ability, but for those 30 minutes after the game, we made it about that, right? And so we had to go back and course correct and make sure that she understood she wasn't defined by that we still loved her, that we still cared for her, that her value to us and to God is so much more than the soccer field and her soccer ability. But that just goes to show you like how quickly it can happen, right? And that's why this identity audit is so important, because your kids are going to speak to you based off of what they think is important to them in their life. And you may hear it and be like, oh, have I been parenting in a way that that's the identity that they've created? And so, like Nate said, it's not about that gotcha moment. It's about, how do we help them see themselves that God still loves them? They are still his masterpiece. Because if we're not careful, you can have those moments like my wife and I had where we didn't do that. And we conveyed a different message.
Yeah. And that's really important for us, right? And so we've kind of built this up here with talking about the achievement trap, right? Our role in, almost setting that trap sometimes. And so maybe you're listening to this and you feel a little down because maybe you notice that you have set that trap for your kids. The good news is, like you just heard, right, there's a way out. And over the next 2 episodes, we're going to give you some of those pointers. We've already talked about this one tool, the identity audit, but there's going to be some more coming. So make sure you stay tuned, subscribe for those next episodes. But Lewis, before we wrap this up, what encouragement would you give to a parent who's listening to this? They feel like they've set that trap for their kids are falling for it, and we haven't released the next 2 episodes yet, or maybe we have and they're still working through it. What encouragement would you leave them today?
Well, look, parents, if your child is stressed, if they're anxious, if they're burned out, it might be because they are carrying the weight of an identity that they weren't meant to build on their own. And so take time today and remind them that they are image bearers first, right? They are Imago Dei. And then they're students, athletes, whatever they are, that is secondary to being image bearers.
Yeah, that's real good. So remember that as you go away from this episode. And thank you all for listening today to Equipped for Impact. If this episode encouraged you, please share it with another parent who could use this resource. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next 2 episodes in this mini-series where we're going to move from identity to ambition. We're going to talk about those, taking the gifts and the talents, the ones that we've just audited, and shifting them from upward mobility, right? Making a name for yourself, to that outward ministry, making much of our Savior, Jesus Christ. And until then, keep leading the next generation to stand firm in their faith and influence the world for Christ.